in Yemen, and we've had continued conversations. I was just chatting with the special envoy for Yemen that the administration has appointed. We are pushing for a ceasefire in the region. We're asking, for anything that can be done to make sure that this particular war comes to an end. The administration really hasn't given us a direct response to how they expect to end their engagement. They continue to say, we are limiting our support for the resources that we provide to Saudi Arabia, but we know that we continue to sell weapons to Saudi Arabia. We continue to sell weapons to the Emirates, who are particularly involved in this war. And I think for the rest of us, we have to continue to pressure them, and we have to continue to make sure that that this war that is taking place in Yemen is not forgotten, that it remains in the conscience of people, because they are human beings that deserve to live a life of peace and dignity. The death of their children, of their elderly, the starvation that they are going through, the war crimes that's being committed against them. When you see the bombings of schools, of bridges, of hospitals, all of that can't be denied. And we continue to pressure the United States and UN bodies to investigate both Saudi Arabia and the Houthis for war crimes. And it is really important for us to have a real commitment to the investigation of war crimes, not just in one area, but throughout the world, wherever they occur. So again, I mean, thank you for caring about this. There's so many of our constituents that continue to prioritize anti-war stances, and you have been a vocal and a moral voice in our district and in our state for a really long time, and I just really appreciate you.
Next, we have Judy Grant. Judy Grant, you're being promoted to being a panelist, and you should be allowed to talk. And if you can bring yourself on camera, it'd be much appreciated. Judy, are you there, available? Oh, there she is.
Thank you. I had a little trouble. Hi, Omar. I'm very pleased with all the things you're doing. I'm new in the district, but I was just living in St. Paul before, so I'm from the area. We have a lot of trouble with crime right now, as you know, in your district. And universal basic income or a guaranteed basic income has been shown to reduce crime. So that, or bringing back the enhanced child tax credit, how do you feel about that?
I agree with you. I have been pushing for universal income for a long time, since I got into Congress. It's one of the things Martin Luther King Jr. Believed in, and we've introduced a resolution and legislation both in support of that. My legislation is a pilot project that we hope to be implemented by municipalities. We have actually asked our governor and the mayor of city of Minneapolis to implement basic income. and use the resources that they received from the federal government. As you know, Judy, Minnesota and Minneapolis were both our city and our state had a lot of resources before the pandemic started. So many of the resources that they received should have been implemented for innovative projects, right, to address long-standing economic devastations that a lot of our communities have lived with, and we've been pressuring them to implement a basic income projects. And so I know that Minneapolis has and our governor is working to do that. Minneapolis can do more. They still have a lot more money. And I hope that our mayor and the city council decides to use the money that they have to provide direct resources to people who will be impacted by it. I know that your former mayor, Melvin Carter, was innovative in his pilot project, and I know that he's working to expand it. And it's really good when you have leaders, right, that are looking for human-centered policies to implement, and the impact that it makes. I think about a lot of the challenges that our region has experienced as the Twin Cities, and when you think about the uprisings that Minneapolis and St. Paul has had, a lot of the uptick in crime, a lot of the distrust that exists between community and those who are sworn, who get sworn to protect and serve. St. Paul has done excellent job because they have a leader, and I just wish the same for our city. There are ways to be collaborative. There are ways to have a heart that is open to the people who are most pained in your community, and it takes a special someone to be able to do that work. And I hope that one day we will get lucky enough to have that in our city. But I support universal income, and I definitely support bringing back the child tax credit. I think it might actually be a standalone piece of legislation, hopefully with the support of Mensch and others.
All right, next we have, it looks like Mary Rabel is unable to attend. So next on the list is April. Charlotte, apologies for butchering your last name. She did say in the chat that she's having some mic issues, and so she was wondering if the moderator could just read the question. So Natasha will be reading her question.
Yes.
This is from April?
Yeah, April, once she joins in, I'll read her question.
So yep, I just promoted her, so she'll be able to join. Hopefully she'll be able to turn on her camera at least, but I believe, yeah, she's having just some mic issues.
I don't know, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, fabulous. I wasn't sure, I haven't used these with the computer yet. Hello, thank you for everything. I just came back from New Zealand a couple weeks ago, so I'm new back in Minneapolis. So I'm just getting
back. Good to meet you.
Thank you. I had some questions regarding immigration for personal reasons, and also just kind of a subject close to my heart. I know that there's a lot of backlog right now with immigration, and I'm just wondering what work is being done right now to address some of that, because I know it's stuff from the previous administration has kind of caused a lot of problems, and there has been some work to try to undo that, but just kind of curious about what's being done in that area.
Yeah, thank you so much, April. We, have heard from a lot of constituents. That's why I was mentioning it earlier. as part of my remarks, just how atrocious the backlog is and how it's impacting people's lives. We, in the last cycle of funding, had an additional $200 million to help address the backlog. Some of this will be used immediately to help ease the backlog. We're hoping that it will go to hiring more people and paying staff overtime, because there is a I know that USCIS will also be working long-term to hire more staff that can adequately handle their workload. I know that some of the problems regional as well, depending on what area in the country that you are in. Our staff that handles our caseload, our immigration caseload, meets with USCIS weekly, and every week we are able to make the demands of addressing some of the backlog. So this is why we encourage our constituents to reach out to us, because once we know of particular cases, we can say, can you look at this case? Here's the underlying circumstances why we think you should expedite. And so there's some interpersonal work that we can do, but the general demand of addressing the backlog is something that we continue to do every single week. There are times and particular cases, right, that again can be expedited. And so without getting personal here on this live stream, I would encourage for you to reach out to our office, the person who handles our immigration caseload, who also is the casework manager in our office. Their name is Nikki, and you can reach out directly to them on the office line that was provided to you when you registered, and they will be able to help you individually if there is a specific help that can be provided to you directly. But I think importantly, addressing it in a general matter, we have tried to figure out how to give them more resources to make sure that they're able to expedite. I mean, even just passports in general are experiencing severe delays in arriving for people, and that's also something that our office, for American citizens, something that we can expedite in getting an appointment and trying to make sure that people have their passports as they're planning their trips that they have been denied during the pandemic. And so I think people oftentimes underestimate the work that can be done by congressional offices, and there's a lot that we could do because we are your liaison to these federal agencies. Thank you.
Next up, we have Kathleen. And I will make Kathleen Grady host. And so, Kathleen, if you don't mind turning on your camera, and you should be able to unmute and ask your question.
Yeah.
Kathleen, are you there? Looks like she is not available to get on at the moment. So we will go next to, I believe, Rebecca and Scott Kramer. I will check if they are available. It looks like Rebecca and Scott Kramer, it looks like they are not able to attend and make it tonight. So we'll move next to Rachel Joseph. Looks like Rachel is not here as well. So we will keep moving down the line. Julie.
Getting closer to
Rasmussen.
dinner time, I think, for people.
Yeah. I'm not seeing Julie as well. So we'll move to Catherine. And Catherine Murphy. Looks like she's here. And so Catherine, I will promote you to a host. And you're able to unmute yourself and show yourself on camera. Thank you.
Hi, hello. Thank you for being my representative. I appreciate you more than I can say in words. My question is just generically, what should be the role of the U.S. in the Ukraine conflict?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've played a really important role so far. You know, I think that the military and humanitarian support that we've provided has been instrumental in Ukraine being able to fend off the illegal invasion of Russia. I also believe that the coalition that we have created in the UN and around the world has been really helpful, right, in trying to bring everybody together to condemn the invasion, to provide the support logistically as well. I think that as Ukraine and its leaders negotiate for an end to this invasion, we have to be able to give them the space to figure out what is feasible for them and what works. I think that as they continue to make asks, there's also ways that we can be supportive and more that we can do. Many of my colleagues have proposed support in debt relief for Ukraine as a way to support. There's a legislation that is proposed by our colleague Chuy Garcia, which we are supportive of. There is legislation to support Ukrainians coming to the United States. I think that will be helpful. I've asked for the administration to support countries like Poland and Hungary and others that are taking in a lot of Ukrainians that are going to need humanitarian and economic support as they do their part for a neighboring country. And ultimately, you know, everything else that we are doing to make sure Putin faces the consequences of his war is something that is ultimately going to be helpful to Ukraine as well.
All right, great. We are nearing the end of the hour. So I think we have a couple more questions left. I think we have William, raise your hand, and then we had one typed up that I will read as well. And so William's been raising his hand for quite a while. And so William, I'll make you a host right now. And hopefully if you can bring yourself on camera and mute yourself, you can ask your question.
All right. Can you hear me and see me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm glad that was able to work. Yeah, so first I just wanted to say thank you just for your steadfast leadership through some truly difficult and challenging times. I appreciate all that you do, and also just for hosting this tonight. My question, it pertains to the subject of health inequities, and that's regarding post-viral diseases. So as the pandemic exposed, just really with the emerging public health challenge that is the patient-led term of long COVID, I just wanted to bring it to your attention and ask if there's anything that you're doing to address this public health challenge for folks that, we're getting this virus, we don't get back to optimal health, we kind of fall in the gray parts of medicine. And really, we've really been left to, as there's this urgency to return to normal, we've really been left to kind of fend on our own. And it's really surfaced this age-old problem that's been mirrored in what's called MECFS, that a lot more needs to be done. And my question was, is there anything that you're doing? Is there anything that we might not be privy to as patient advocates that leadership is doing to address this crisis?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think that there is anything particularly that is getting done outside of the fact that we are starting to have conversations amongst one another and with constituents like you who are telling us the stories. I was just talking to another member who was telling me about some of the long-term effects that one of her neighbors was having, which was like fatigue, inability to drive, and that her and her partner are like helping go shopping for their neighbor, and so we're hearing those kind of stories from a lot of people. And one of the things that I hope is that committees of jurisdiction that deal with healthcare issues hopefully will have a hearing to sort of explore and bring some folks who are impacted, some advocates, and then maybe healthcare professionals, so that we can actually start to have this conversation, right, in a broader in the broader sense. But I'm also just remembering that we recently sent a letter to the health department and CDC, raising some of these issues and asking for them to look into it, to collect some data to address this issue. And this was a letter that was led, I think, by Congresswoman Presley of Massachusetts, Ayanna Presley. And so these are initial conversations that are beginning, and I hope that there is more that we learn, so that we can try to figure out how to target resources to hopefully address some of this long-term impact that a lot of people are talking to us about, in the same way that we are just beginning, right, to understand some of the long-term impacts that like young children are experiencing who've been out of school or had their education interrupted. We're also beginning to address and take stock of like a lot of kids who've been orphaned by COVID, and what do we do with them as a society, and how do we address their trauma, but also the resources that they are going to need going forward. So I think we're at the beginning stages, William, in trying to fully comprehend what this means outside of the fact that it's a pandemic that took lives and like impacted us. What is the lasting impact of that pandemic will be something that we will be exploring for a while.
Okay, I do appreciate that answer. The only thing I would say is I know there is one bill in the House right now called the Cures 2.0 Act that is looking to address infectious associated diseases. So just to bring that to your attention and your staff, If you come across that, to look into it, that support would be phenomenal. And then just knowing, hopefully down the line, a state task force that looks at medical and public education programs. As a patient, I can tell you that lived experience is one that is needed and that I hope will be addressed.
Oh, that's wonderful. Do you know whose bill it might be?
Cures 2.0. I don't know off the top of my head. There's the two co-sponsors. I want to say Upton and DeGette, if you're familiar with, but that's I'd have to just double check. So that's in the House, and then in the Senate right now is the Care for Long COVID Act that we're hopeful to get enough bipartisan support to have that pass through, just because truly right now there's no FDA approved treatment. There's no diagnostics. It's a frontier of medicine that's really hits young adults, hits teenagers, hits kids. I was a young adult that worked for a Fortune 50 company here in Minnesota that's now rendered disabled. And, a lot, and I would anecdotally would tell you 85% of those who I advocate with, we're all young adults. Our lives should be, landmarked by job promotions, trips, marriages, children, and we're all just stuck. And we just need our leadership and those who are in the position of influence to really hear these outcries and for this help and to hopefully transform these wounds into wisdom.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much for sharing and bringing this to my attention. I'm familiar with the gentleman from Michigan, and so we'll reach out and have a conversation about the legislation, and then we'll also circle back with you to try to look at if there's more that we can do. I'm sure there's stuff that we can do locally to talk to state legislators and state leaders as well. So we'll do that if that's okay with you. My staff will reach out to you and have a conversation.
Of course, I thank you very much for your leadership.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, like I said, we are still in that mindset of like the lives that are lost, right? My father died of COVID in summer of 2020. That's the number, right? That we put up all the time, and we're forgetting. The same way in war, I always say, right? Like there's the living dead.
Right.
Like we talk about the casualties, but we forget the casualties of the people who are actually living,
Right.
because that impact stays, and yeah, it's gonna be devastating, and it's important for us early on to find ways to address it. So again, I thank you for your courage, for your patience, to come out here tonight.
Yeah, and my heart goes out to you for the loss of your father. And if there's anything as your constituent that I can help move this forward, please loop me in. Just really want to try to get, the old life that I was familiar with back.
Yeah. And we'll try to do what we can. Again, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So I think that brings us to the end of our town hall. Again, thank you all very much for joining us for our March, for the month of March town hall. I look forward to seeing you all for April's. We've made a commitment to host a town hall once a month, in person or virtually, once it starts getting warmer and worries about COVID subside. We will reassume our in-person town halls, which are actually my favorites. And we also do our coffee and Quran conversations about particular policies that we care about and our constituents care about every other month. And so we look forward to seeing you as part of those conversations as well. Again, thank you so much for the honor of representing you. And thank you for being here with us tonight. Have a great night. Bye-bye.